Welcome in everyone to another edition of the 70 Chipcast. This week we're previewing week four's matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to react to last week's absolute beatdown against the Las Vegas Raiders. We're getting into a couple other things as well. Did I call it or what, people? I mean, I predicted a blowout and I wasn't exactly right with the score, but I was pretty darn close. So I will be taking credit for that one. But Ben, how are we doing tonight? Um, I you can thank me later for, seeing into the future. I don't know if I'll be right again this week, but we'll see.
No, I'm doing great. We won, and we won with a backup quarterback, and
Yes.
that's a lot to celebrate. So we're 2-1. I'm doing great, and you should be proud, okay? Because you did call it, man. You said you felt the blowout coming, and it was. What was it, 20-10 at halftime? I think,
Yeah.
34-10 at the end of the third quarter. So yeah, I mean, listen, that's a great week. There's plenty to talk about, and we will. There's plenty to work on, and they will. But that's a great week that you are 2-1 and you blew out a team that just wasn't as good as you, and you did it with your backup quarterback. That's a great week. Totally.
So before we get any deeper into this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you set notifications as well so you get all things Washington Commanders. And also, Ben, you've been doing a couple other things on the channel here. I don't know if you want to shout that out real quick before we get started or anything else you have going on.
I'll do it real quick, and especially for you Commanders fans, we're way ahead on the 2026 NFL draft. So if you want to check out who the Commanders might be looking at next spring come draft time, this same channel, different playlist. It'll be the 2026 NFL draft prospects. We've covered a lot of wide receivers. We've covered several quarterbacks, several starting to hit the running backs now. We've covered a lot. We're starting to break them down one by one too. So if you don't want to watch an hour show on 10 guys, you can watch an 8-minute show on one guy if you want. So check all that out the same channel.
Yeah, who we're going to be picking at pick 32 next year. I mean, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. Okay. So Caleb Downs won't be there. He would be awesome.
Okay.
Let's hope he suffers a mild injury and it drops him from pick number 3 down to pick 32. And
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
the Eagles picking up the linebacker kid from Alabama that they got, whose
Yeah,
name
Kobe
totally
Dean.
escaped me.
Oh my God.
No,
No.
the other one. Just
Oh.
this past recent one.
Oh. Um I
Yeah,
can't
Dean was
think, but
Georgia, but
another Georgia linebacker. Of course they did. I don't remember, but Nakobe, I was r really upset because I think you knew I love Nakobe
yes,
Dean coming out, and I was so upset that he went to Philadelphia. But I digress. Hopefully, it's pick 32 regardless,
right. So
and
go
not
check
by
that out.
trade.
Let's talk about the real important stuff. That's the Commanders. The Commanders winning.
Yes, well, I suppose a early trend, something that's been mentioned several times is our rush defense. It was a bit of a pain point coming into the season. Javon Kinlaw, we didn't mind the signing. We decently liked the player. We didn't like the money when he was
Right.
signed. Um we I did not like the Eddie Goldman pickup because I was like, okay, you're getting this pretty much guy that doesn't have a job in the NFL, hasn't had a job in the past 2 years, and you're just gonna like, oh, that's our fix for the run defense. And I'm like, that doesn't do anything for me. But so far through 3 weeks, you can't really argue with the results. It's not on here, but we are top half of the league in some major rushing categories. Um, and that's pretty good. And it's actually kind of flipped with our pass defense.
Yeah.
Last year was top half of the league, top 10 in a lot of aspects, and now we're bottom half of the league in pass defense. So, some good stats you have up here.
Yeah. So, and again, it's early this season. So, we may still not have any better run defense than we did last year, right? But the
Yeah.
first 3 games, it looks good. Giants, Packers, Raiders, you can see the first chart there that is yards per carry allowed. Last year, we were allowing 4.8, which is bad. All right. It's not horrible. It's not the worst in the league, but it's bad. It's consistently not good. It's consistently hurting us. Well, so far this year, we're doing a whole lot better than that. 3.2 against the Giants, 3.3 against the Raiders, and even the 4.5 against the Packers was not Josh Jacobs. It was all the other stuff kind of coming together to beat us. The Jordan Loves, the jet sweeps, that kind of a thing. So I really felt good about the Packers stopping the run too. I like what we've done so far and having the bigger guys. Kinlaw, not so, yeah, we're a little bit bigger at defensive tackle, but we're having that bigger defensive end out there. So we got three big guys out there, as I think is having an impact. And then, of course, you've got Wagner floating around back there like he did last year. But then the second chart, rushing yards per game allowed, right? Last year, 137.5, which again, per game is not good. You know, it's not horrible. It's not the worst in the league, but it's consistently hurting us. This year, we haven't even crossed that mark. So 74 against the Giants total, 93 against the Raiders total, and only 135 against the Packers total, who commit to the run. You talk about a team committed to the run. Packers committed to the run, still didn't cross that bad mark that we had last year. So, you know, those two charts right there, just early in the season, I like where we're going with being able to stop the run against these teams.
Now, it used to be, even if you go back 10 years ago, it's like, okay, if we hold our opponent to less than 100 yards rushing, we're probably going to win the game. And again, that's not today's NFL necessarily, but you look at the limited numbers that we have, and it's like, well, that seems to be the case so far. You hold them to around or less than 100, then you at least have a fighting chance um, of of beating your opponent. I have a lot of questions if this is sustainable. We're going to get a good test this week against arguably the best running back tandem in the NFL. I mean, it's arguable. You know, you have got Gibbs and Montgomery in Detroit and a couple others that, you know, they're, I mean, even Saquon now and that guy, what was his name, Shipley or whatever. I mean, that seems to be a good combo. But Bijan
Yes.
and Tyler Algier, I mean, that's a pretty good combination. Tyler Algier would probably start for half the teams in the league at running back. He's a really
Right.
good back. It's just Bijan's just that dang good. So this is going to be a good test to see if that holds up because a much better offensive line in Atlanta. So we're definitely going to talk about that a little bit later and keep tabs on that. Anything else on the rush statistics?
Yeah, just what you see there with the rushing yards per carry allowed there on the right side of the screen. We got it divided up by position. So
Hmm.
against the running backs, we're doing great so far. 3.1 yards a carry. And again, that includes a Jacobs appearance. And the Giants running attack has something to offer. It's not, you know, not devastating, but it has something to offer. And then of course the Raiders rushing attack with Ashton Jonty, who showed flashes the week before against I don't remember who they were playing, but pretty good defense the week before. The Chargers, I think it was, you know, held him down too. So we're not doing, you know, we're not allowing the running backs here to tee off on us, and that's good. You know, us being able to focus on and stop that to the tune of 3.1 is excellent. You can see the quarterbacks when they're on the move, we're giving up a little bit more, and then when the wide receivers are on the move, those jet sweeps and stuff, we're giving up 8.6, which is a bad number, but I'll live with it. Teams aren't making a living off of us with their quarterbacks, their wide receivers. That's indicative of the fact that we're able to stop the main rush and we're able to get to the quarterback some. So teams are being forced to do something else, and that's why you see, you know, the quarterback and wide receiver numbers a little bit higher. But as long as those running backs are not teeing off on us to the tune of 4.5 yards a carry, then I will live with what I see here on this position chart.
All right, so full disclosure, we usually record on Tuesdays. This week we're recording on a Wednesday. We actually have a injury report, right?
Yeah.
It's the first time, you know. And the big part here is that Jaden appears to be feeling okay. I don't know that he would. I'm his PR people, and Adam Peters, Dan Quinn was even like, "Hey, you're fine." You know, like so that might have been the pep talk before this press conference, but he he's almost like playing it off too much to where it's like, oh, well, if he doesn't play, then either he's lying or there's something wrong, and it's just going to bring up a whole lot of stuff. So, based on his comments today, it makes me feel like he's going to play Sunday. However, if he's truly feeling all right, then I'm fine with it, right? But if he's not, if there's any chance that there's potential further structural damage or anything of that nature, like are we teetering on something potentially here? I don't want him out there. I don't want him out there at all. It's not that I believe that much in Marcus Mariota. It's several factors. On the right here, you see Terry McLaurin. He's seeking a second opinion with this quad injury. He's probably not playing this week. So now you have Terry McLaurin out. You potentially have Noah Brown out again. Who's playing receiver? Okay, you got Debo, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane. You're gonna have to bring up someone from practice squad, which is gonna be Chris Moore again. Do you bring up somebody else from practice squad, which would be a Ja'Cory Brooks, a Tay Martin? Do you go out and sign somebody? Is Jaden gonna get enough reps with him being probably limited the entire week in practice and probably never gonna be a full participant? Is he gonna get enough reps with this guy? Is Mariota gonna get enough reps with this guy if you sign somebody? Like, there's no one out there to play receiver. It's like, okay, well, you could split Ertz out there every once in a while, but then you're relying on Ben Sinnott to be your primary tight end because John Bates is injured. So there's just too many things going on right now. Our injuries seem to be piling up. Will Harris is on IR now. Um, Trey Amos, he's had a calf injury that he's been dealing with. Uh, there's just too many injuries going on right now with this team where we're just too banged up in too many spots where I don't want to throw Jaden out there if it's a risk. And it's great that we have the luxury of Marcus Mariota. Again, I would love to have Jaden out there, but not if it's going to be at any risk to him. Because, okay, now we have receivers that they can't get open, and he's holding the ball more or he's having to run more. I don't want that. I would feel much more comfortable just putting Mariota out there. Don't want him out there necessarily, but I'd feel more comfortable with saving Jaden for another week.
I'm in the same boat. You know, we had this discussion last year when we were talking about Joe Burrow with the Cincinnati Bengals. We said, hey, sit him the first 2 weeks. If he's not ready to go, like completely ready to go, he is your franchise. Without him, you got nothing. You know, you're just not going to do a darn thing, right? And I feel the same way here about Jaden Daniels. You know, without him, all your hope, all your real, aspirations go right out the window. So I want to make sure that he's totally 100%. And I was really proud of the Commanders franchise last week for not trotting him out there. I don't know if he even could have gone, but he did not, and they didn't try to push it, you know. So I was proud of them. You know, they came up, double aces with a victory, but even if it hadn't, I still would have been proud of them for just not trying to push that because without Jaden Daniels, what are you going to do? You know, your hope is gone, all your excitement is gone too. Now you're 2-1. You got a little bit of room to play with. It looks like it's going to be a long season. It looks like you're going to be right in the mix for playoff spot, you know? So, and as important as we said these games are, Jaden Daniels being healthy is more important, you know? So you don't want to capitalize, you don't want to endanger that. So I want him to be healthy. I want him to feel good about it. If he does, let's trot him out. You know, if that's 95%, that's okay. But even without him, you're playing a Falcons team that hasn't yet looked amazing, a long ways from it. And I think we have a very good chance to win even without him. You know, with him, I think we might blow the Falcons out potentially, but without him, we got a very good chance to win this game. So I'm 100% comfortable with sitting him again this week if there's really any indication that he's just not ready to go.
Does it change your mind at all knowing that the next game we play is going to be against a seemingly elite defense in LA against the Chargers, and the following week is against the Bears, who don't have a world beater of a defense, but they seem to be physical group that's, fast and physical, aggressive. Um, does that bother you at all, or like that's going to be his next two matchups? Like Jaden, he didn't have the get right game against Vegas. He's not going to have this game, which I don't think is going to be as easy as some people might think. Because desperate teams do some desperate things and do crazy stuff and take a lot of risks if they're feeling the heat. So he doesn't have he didn't have the luxury of getting to play these two games, or might not be able to play this week. Does that change your calculus at all if you're Dan Quinn or Adam Peters?
No, not really. I'm more interested in him feeling good. I'm more interested in the record. We're not 0-3 or 1-2 and getting desperate. We're 2-1. And I'm more interested in the fact that he didn't look great before he got hurt, right? He already hadn't looked brilliant yet this year, like we were hoping. So he's just going to have to man it up whenever he's feeling healthy. He's just going to have to man it up against a tough defense.
Right. I if he's compromised in the least. We're not beating LA. We're just not, that's just not happening. So it's almost like, okay, do we push all the eggs into this week's basket and get the win against Atlanta, knowing that we're probably not going to beat LA? Or is it's like, or we're just going to push all the chips into LA? And it's like, if Mariota can win this game, great. If he can't, then oh well, we're 2-2 and we're still in the mix of things. I don't know how I feel about that. Again, I would lean to whatever the safest is, whatever the safest option is for Jaden. But I hate punting on a game because, but at the same time, it's like, okay, we're this good. We should be able to make that game up somewhere with a fully healthy Jaden. I don't know. It's tough. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it's a strange place right now.
Yeah, I agree. And there are people who would go right into what you're saying. I'm just not there. I try to keep things as simple as I can. Um, at a certain point, it just gets to be too complicated trying to predict what's going to happen a week or two later. Because listen, the Chargers are good. I don't yet think that they're a dominant force. I'm not sure they're better than we are, to be honest. They're built very differently, but to this point, I'm just not convinced they're better than us by a lot, a little, but not a lot. So, I'd really rather just take it week by week. Let's stay focused on what's best for us that week. And for me, if Jaden Daniels isn't, I don't, yeah, whatever the number is, if he isn't feeling great, I'm okay with the brace. But if he isn't feeling great about going out there and playing, then let's sit him. I'm okay with that. 2-1 against the Falcons. And if he feels great, then let's get out there and let's get after it.
All right. So last week, what was your biggest takeaway from this game? Because I have several. I don't know. I could point any one of them out, but I have. What would be yours?
There were two. I'll combine them real quick. Okay, number one, and I said this right from the open. You won a game with your backup quarterback. Okay,
Right.
that is huge. That's not something to be overlooked. The Raiders are dangerous, just as dangerous as the Falcons are this week. All right, two dangerous teams. Um, but for you to win a game with your backup quarterback, it's just huge. That really shows a lot of maturity, a lot of focus, a lot of energy by this Commanders team. So I can't say that enough. The other thing though was the running game, and when you look at say the running backs by yards per carry, nothing great, right? But the Commanders consistently ran the football. They didn't give up on it. They used that as part of the offense, along with Mariota's ability to throw the football some. They used that as a way to, produce yardage and win the game, right? They played the style that way to win the game. So I really enjoyed their running game too. And then you had, of course, a couple of the explosives, right? You had the 60-yarder by McNichols, you had the 22 by Mariota. So you had a couple of explosive kick in there as well, but you were able to consistently move the chains by running the football, not in a drastic way, but it was just kind of mix match dink and dunk, right? And you win by a lot. So I really like that. I thought that was important that they were able to win that way when it's obviously not the way they want to win.
Yeah, for me, it was one, the injuries, and then obviously, I mean, I'm not going to take away from what you said because I 100% agree, but I guess from other points, I suppose, is the injuries that kind of are starting to pile up.
Yes.
Um, and then I guess the mistakes, like
Huh.
if the mistakes in the first half to me were like the 10-point lead never felt like so insignificant in my life. Like I didn't think we were at all in trouble, but I was like, we should be up by like 28-0 on these guys, at least, But there was another miscommunication, actually a couple of them throughout the game, miscommunications in the secondary, where guys like, I think it was Samer still thought he had help deep and there was nobody there. And that happened a couple of times. Or Wagner was supposed to take a guy and he didn't, and it was just a massive gash. Um,
Yeah.
penalties. We had like I think 6 or 7 penalties in the first half. Um, just too much, too many mistakes. The fumble by Mariota, that was his one like from the game. Uh, like just too many miscues, missed kicks again. Oh my God. And yet Dan Quinn said today he fully believes in Matt Gay. I don't know why, dude. I don't know why. I would have signed Young Wei Koo, which I know he got cut from Atlanta for a reason, but I I hope kickers are a lot like relief pitchers, right? They're just good for no reason for a stretch of time, and then they give up a home run or a couple of home runs, or it's a blown save, and then they're trash for the next 2 seasons. Kickers are a lot like that. And Matt Gay, I understand he kicked in a lot of big games. He kicked for a Super Bowl winning team. Fully understand that. Like he's nails inside 50. Well, he missed a 37 yarder. Okay. Like, and that's not the first time either. So we have a kicking problem. It's not that he's not a good kicker. He's just not good right now. And we need to find someone that's good right now. And because it's going to cost us a game, whether it's this week, next week, the following week, like it's going to cost us at some point. And to me, this falls on Peters and Quinn. It's like, okay, you've had so many opportunities. You've known this is a problem. You're not even trying to address the problem. They didn't haven't brought in anybody. So those are my big things, the miscues and the injuries. Um, just not great. Again, great team win, run game, Mariota, like you said, right? Other players standing out. McCaffrey got his first touchdown, Jalen Lane, punt return touchdown, Debo looking dynamic on kickoffs. Great stuff, right? But I would like a cleaner game against the Las Vegas Raiders.
I'm with you on all those fronts. I'll start with the kicker. We've already gotten after that front office just a little bit for not addressing it during the off season. It's the regular season. It's clearly a problem, and they still haven't done anything about it. I'm not saying you have to let the kicker go, but you should consider bringing in some competition, and they haven't done that. And I'm not worried about this guy's confidence at this point because his kicks already aren't good. So, you know, if he wants to be butt hurt because we brought in some competition, he'll just have to be butt hurt. Okay, So that's
Yeah.
that's how I feel about that. Um, the injuries we cannot control. Dadgummit, sometimes you just get in bad luck, and it is already week 4 now. We're starting to test our depth, and it's not good in some places. You already mentioned wide receiver room. We're still okay for now. We haven't yet been devastated or wiped out by these injuries, but it's starting to feel it. And when you're playing the Falcons and Raiders, you may be able to get by with that. But, when you start to play the better teams, that won't. But we can't control that. What we can control is this stupid miscommunications in the secondary. I don't understand it.
I don't either,
You
man.
know, they're not all young guys. They're not all new guys. There are young guys and there are new guys, but there's old guys too, and it's not a new system. We got to clean that up. And then the penalties, listen, the aggressiveness penalties I don't mind, but that's not what we're racking up here. We're racking up penalties that we can stop. Bill Belichick talked about this before as well. He said, we understand that guys make mistakes, but if every guy has a penalty and says, my bad, we've lost the game because we had 200 yards of penalty yards. You
Yeah.
have to stop it. You
Yep.
have to stop it. So the penalties, the dumb penalties, right? And then the
Yep.
miscommunications in the secondary have got to stop. We can't control that.
So p people are going to look at the stats or like the advanced stats of Josh Connerly and be like, "Oh, he had such a great game." It's like he committed 3 holding penalties.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
that's not a good game. I'm sorry. Like, no, did he give up a sack? But like that, I don't want to say that's a not a big deal because it is. But
Hmm.
he had he not held the guy, he would have gave up 3 sacks.
Three
So.
sacks. Yes.
And Laramie Tunsil had a couple as well. I don't know if there was holding penalties, false starts, or what, but he had a couple penalties that were called too. It's like, geez, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like he's the veteran, and I have to remind myself, okay, that was one of the downsides when we brought Tunsil in was
Hmm.
he led the league in penalties for starting offensive linemen. So
He did.
I I guess he's going to start leading them again because he's had a lot in the first 3 weeks. Um, you're right. Obviously, injuries you can't control that, but the other mistakes, the fumbling the foot, I mean, leaping into the air and then hanging the ball out, like Mariota had a great game. That was his one ding. Dropping passes that hit you in the hands. I'm sorry. Like, I don't care if you're having to jump up in the air. If it hits you in your hands, that you need to bring that in. Ask any any receiver that's played in the past, you know, ever. They'll say, "Hey, if it hits your hands, you need to catch that." Debo's had several drops past or for first couple weeks. I mean, he's been great, right? But he's had balls that have
Yeah.
just hit him right in the hands, and he's just dropping them. They're going right through. Um, you make these mistakes against a team that's not the Raiders, and you're gonna lose. I mean, that's just the truth.
Yeah, and thankfully we've got the entire regular season to work this out. And it looks like, listen, I one of the things I did wonder and worry about was we've improved the roster, but the win totals may go down. Are we still going to look like a good team this year? We look like a good team so far. We look like a playoff team so far. In spite of all the mistakes and some of the injuries, we look like a good football team. We look better than some of these teams. And I thought against the Packers, we beat ourselves. But against, the other two teams, we look better. Against the Falcons, I think we're clearly the better team. So I feel good about that our talent base looks pretty good. Our leadership looks pretty good. It's just been really sloppy so far, and you can't keep doing that and expect to be on the plus side of the ledger.
Right, so let's talk about this upcoming week, shall we?
Here we go.
So the Falcons, just kind of like first initial reaction was that okay, we had to beat them in overtime last year. You know, Penix didn't have a fantastic game, but he definitely came on late and, tied up the game and uh he was decent, especially for I think it was at that point it was his first start. He's coming off a bad week, but as I had mentioned earlier, I mean, I heard reports today that there's like people down there in Atlanta that are like, hey, if we lose to Marcus Mariota, we want Raheem Morris and I forget what their offense coordinator's name is. Is it Robinson or Brown?
That-
I
yeah,
can't think
that
of who
sounds right.
I can't think of who it
One of
is.
those.
He's from the Shanahan tree though. Um, and they're like, we want him gone. So there's clearly some pressure, and there's been a lot of questions on how the Falcons have done things past couple of seasons. That's my, kind of thing. Like they're desperate, right? That's my thing. Like despite what the scouting report says, it's like that might be true, that there might be an average-ish type of team with good in certain spots. They're desperate, and desperate teams do, like I said earlier, some crazy, wacky things, take a lot of risks. So, just wanted to kind of preempt that before we get into it.
They better be desperate. When you lose 30 to nothing to the Panthers, that's a joke. That means you no-showed, basically, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you can blame Penix for the dumb interceptions, and they were dumb, but you scored no points and you gave up 30.
yeah,
Y'all just didn't bring your game at all. You are better than Carolina. You should be. And you've even looked better so far this year up until that game on Sunday. So for Atlanta to show up here 1-2 and getting their tails handed to them by the Panthers, they better come in desperate. And I think they will. This is a decent roster. I picked them to scratch their way into a wild card playoff before the season started. That won't happen unless everybody starts playing better. But let's go ahead and go with the scouting. This, by the way, this will be the last week that we work off the 24 numbers. Next week, we'll have 4 weeks of data. So we'll switch over to the 25 numbers. Okay. So the Falcons in 2024, their offense, you can see it on the left side of the screen. A lot of good stuff. Statistically, they were top 10 in a lot of the yardage categories, right? This was an offense that produced yardage, and even in points, they were 13th. The red zone and third down were very average, so they struggled there. And then even EPA per play was pretty good at 12. So this was an offense that produced last year, whether it was Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix. The offense produced, and that's saying something. The defense was very bad, though. You can see all the red down there. I'm not going to go through it, but everything there was either average or very bad last year. So that's what they were up against last year. Don't know that they've improved a lot yet, but this team is very young at quarterback and at defensive line. So if you look at their defensive tackle spots and you look at their defensive end spots, especially, and then of course with Penix at quarterback, this is a team that's very young in some of those position groups, right? So you would expect improvement one week over the next, but you may not get that this early in the season. Running back, got the A minus there with Bijan Robinson. He's devastating. Even Tyler Algier, you already mentioned him. Everywhere else, though, it's pretty average. Okay. Quarterback, I've got a little under right now. Wide receiver, a little over, mainly because of Drake London. Offensive line's a little over. It's a pretty average roster just about everywhere. They're not horrible anywhere right now. They're not great anywhere besides running back. So that's about what we're looking at here on the scouting report for Atlanta.
One other report that I heard is that it seems to be that whatever formation they line up in is a rather big tell um, into what they're going to run. So, like if they're lining up under center, which apparently they don't do a lot, uh, they're running the football. Uh, Whenever they're in gun, which they're in gun primarily, they're throwing the football. And then if they're in pistol, which I, if you're accustomed to running a certain offense and you prefer being under center, then just be under center. I don't know why being in pistol makes such a big difference, and maybe someone could explain that to me. I'll be honest, I don't know why. But if you're accustomed to running that and your quarterback is a great play action, pass guy, granted he has to turn his back, but I mean just do what your quarterback is comfortable with. Um, so like I said, they seem to be rather struggling down in Atlanta to get things kind of figured out and mix things up. I don't know if that's a Penix thing. I don't know if that's a coordinator thing. Not sure what it is exactly, but it sounds like they have a lot to work on down there, which again, not great time for us to be facing them because again, desperation, they'll might try to mix things up a bit and so forth. So again, we will see. I I typically agree with your breakdown. I don't think they're spectacular anywhere outside of running back. Um, I think the quarterback could be a good position because, you have Penix who's a young guy, and then you have Cousins who's like a seasoned veteran that, you'd like to think he can step in and win you a game, if need be. You'd like to think he'd be a starter level guy if Penix were to get injured or if they were just outright bench him. But just not what it is right now based on Cousins from last year and based the way on Penix is right now. It's just not great.
See, that's actually a great point you bring up. Full disclosure here, I had quarterback ranked as a C plus just about a week and a half ago, and then back to back weeks of not too good, so I dropped it to C minus. So, but I'm with you. I'm a pretty big Michael Penix guy, and I still think Kirk Cousins can produce. I think they have two guys there who should be on the plus side of the ledger, in spite of what we saw last week, where Penix really had a bad game. That was, but Penix has produced yardage wise. He even he had 172 yards passing last week, which isn't a lot, but it's better than some of the other guys we've seen this year.
Yeah.
So even in an ugly game, he still put out 172 passing yards. So I'm with you. That quarterback room could be very dangerous and probably should be better than a C minus. It's just kind of really recency bias kicking in there.
All right, time to get to the Vires on Fire
Oh
list.
yeah.
So I'm going to just name five players. This week, five. Sorry, I let the cat out of the bag. Usually I do three, but last week was such a beatdown, and I was so happy to see certain players playing well that I just couldn't leave them off the list, and for reasons that I will get to here in a second.
Hey,
Um,
look. Okay. Fire on Fire is a beautiful segment. It's one of my probably two favorites every week. But based on what you did last week, we might should turn it into roast or toast because last
that's
week
true.
you roasted some players
I
and now
did.
you're toasting five of them to make up for it.
Kind of, yeah. Because there's other play. I would roast some players right now. Um,
Yes.
Matt Gay being number one on the list. And I'll get to this other guy here in a second. Save that thought there. Um, so number one, Deron Payne, man. I mean, this dude contract season, holy heck. This guy had, I think, maybe the best grade of his career on
Mm,
PFF. He had like a 90 some grade.
wow.
Just absolutely insane. This dude was blowing up everything. You couldn't run at this guy. He was getting constant pressure. Uh, Deron Payne looks a lot like 2022 Deron Payne. And
Yeah.
again, no guaranteed money left on his deal after this season, and it's showing in his play. So very happy that he is getting going. Man, if we can get uh this throughout the entire season, I know our defense is going to be significantly improved just based on one player. Because I think you might have mentioned it a few weeks ago, like just Payne playing better is like already an addition to what this defensive line is. If you can get him to play better, then that's like a brand new player that you have. Um, so did you have any reaction to that, or should I move on?
No, I'm gonna wait until you name all five, and then I'll
Okay,
pull out one or two guys here.
gotcha. To Marcus Mariota, look, did he have the best game? No, but the fact that he hasn't started in almost 2 years
Wow.
and he comes in with an offensive line that was kind of makeshift last minute, you know, and injuries on the defense, and you have a rookie right tackle, and there no running back really, no lead running back at least,
Right.
and you come out and you play like that. That's really good. Like I would like to think that if we don't have the best, it's pretty darn close to the best backup quarterback situation that we have. The offense doesn't change with Mariota in there. I mean, he might not be able to do everything that Jaden can do, but it's like 95% he can do everything else. And it showed, and he was rather effective when he needed to be. He didn't try to force anything. He was careless with the ball one time. He made quick decisions. He was very decisive on some zone reads. Maybe Jaden can learn a thing or two from him as far as when to pull the ball and when to give it to the running back. Because he on all the zone read plays he had, Marcus, he did a great job with him. Um, so yeah, just hats off to Marcus Mariota, first start in a while. Um, and he's had kind of a long journey himself that, hopefully he feels kind of at home here. I'd like it if he stayed on for a little while longer, but I feel confident we need to call him in again. I don't want him out there. I'd much rather have Jaden, but still great backup quarterback situation there. Bobby Wagner, man, like this dude can stay on this team as long as he wants. There's no drop off so far. There's not 2 sacks. I think over 10 tackles again. He's gonna have probably over 100 tackles by the time we get to the bye week. This dude's just insane. Okay. I mean, the guy is, I can't explain him. He's like 40 billion years old and he's still doing this. Um, I think I talked to you last year about it. When we signed him, I think he's a year older or a year younger than when we first signed London Fletcher, and he played for us for like years at a Pro Bowl level. So maybe this is one of those situations where he's going to be around for another few years. Like he's going to go slightly down every year, but production's still there, man. He is looking absolutely fantastic. Now, here's my two additions, two that aren't super obvious. Jeremy Reeves, this dude right here, I can't think of a
Yeah.
more deserving player. I mean, he was a walk. He got cut, I think, 8 times from this organization between getting added on the practice squad, added on the 53, cut again, several different training camps. And past 3 or 4 years, he's just been kind of a mainstay special teams guy on the roster. And now he's put kind of being thrust into a starting role, or at least a major contributor role. And I think there was that one on the touchdown to Trey Tucker. He was at fault on that, but I don't know. Obviously, we don't know their responsibility and so forth. But this dude was flying around. You could feel the speed, the energy, the physicality. He was out there hitting guys. I mean, you just felt it when he was in there. It was like complete tonal change from when Will Harris was in there, which is weird because he's also like a big energy, big hit guy, but
Right.
it just
Right.
felt different when Reeves was on the field. So just hats off to him for, when he was called on, he played pretty well. I mean, he was all over the field. So hats off to him. He's on my on fire list. I said during the offseason I didn't want Jeremy Reeves on the field for very much.
Right.
But if he's in kind of like that box safety type role, I don't know that I'd mind it too much. I don't want him in coverage too much because I think he might get exposed. But box safety, I think I'm all right with that. And lastly, Chris Paul, man, seventh round draft pick from the previous regime beats out a third round draft pick from the current regime.
Yeah.
That's not nothing, man. So either this dude's playing his ass off, or Brandon Coleman just dropped the ball completely. And he's just, I mean, he was made inactive not due to injury, but due to coach's decision. That's not good for a third round pick that was just drafted last year. I mean, that's not good. That's a separate conversation. But Chris Paul didn't allow a single pressure, didn't allow a single quarterback hit, didn't allow a sack. I mean, zeros across the board. And had, I think, he was the second or third highest graded offensive player in the game. I mean, just an absolute fantastic performance. Hasn't started in I think 2 years. I don't think he started since Rivera was here. So hats off to him, man. That he's still proving it with a different regime, beating out one of their draft picks. That's pretty significant. And if he can keep that up, man, phew, offensive line just got a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, I'm going to hit two or three of these guys. I'll leave off two, but let me start right there with Chris Paul. I'll reserve judgment until he plays more about just how good he can be.
Of course.
But it's always, to me, a great indicator of the coaching staff and the franchise spirit, culture, whatever you want to label it. When one guy is not coming on the field for any reason, whether he's playing bad or he's injured, and the next guy in has a good game, I think it illustrates that there's a lot of belief and energy in the locker room and in the building. I think that's important. So, whether that's the best game he ever plays in his whole life or not, it's a good indicator that that kind of belief system is in the building. It really is. I am a little worried about Brandon Coleman there. Everybody that watched him last year thought this guy should be a starter, if not guard, then tackle, and now he's not playing. He's getting, replaced by Chris Paul. So that does bother me, but, let's stay tuned. Let's see how that plays out this year. Um, Deron Payne. Okay. To me, there's a good side and a bad side of this. Deron Payne, to me, looks leaner than I've seen him the past few years. He looks a little more muscular. I mentioned that right at the first game of the season, right? Some of these guys look like they've been working out more. He looks a little leaner to me, a little more muscular than he has the past couple of years, where I thought he looked a little not overweight, but a little more on the puffy side of life, right? For a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that he has come in this year and he is blowing it up. I mean, he is kicking tail. Now, what worries me as a general manager is why it happened this year and not the past 2 or 3 years. So
Oh,
is he just playing for the contract? That
yeah.
as a coach or a fan, I don't worry about that. But as a general manager, I do. As soon as I hand him another big contract and he's not young, does he kind of settle back into his normal play, which we saw the past 2 or 3 seasons, which wasn't bad. It just wasn't this. Where's
Yeah.
this been? So I'll take it for this year, but come contract time, I'm going to be a little bit more cautious on that. Okay. I'm not going to jump right into throwing a bunch of money. And then Jeremy Reeves, I do think there's a talent problem there overall. You mentioned it, wouldn't want him back there in the passing game too much week in and week out. But if he can take on that high energy box safety role from week to week, I'm in love with that. So please give me more of that.
All right, Ben, your keys to hail victory.
Okay. For me, really, number one, two, and three is stop Bijan Robinson. I mean,
Right.
and
Right.
Algier too, but it's Robinson. Robinson, from a talent standpoint, from an a production standpoint, from a focus standpoint, he is far and away the most dangerous, consistently good thing on this team. And I don't think it's even close. Okay. So I would do my darndest to keep him from running the football, but that's not easy to do because he can run in between the tackles and he can take off out there on the sides too. That's hard to do. And then when he can catch the football. So, but I'm going to do my best. Let's put Reeves on him, half the time. Just harass him. Let's make sure that he's up against a stacked box as much as we can. Bobby Wagner will be a big part of that stacked box, right? Let's make sure that our nickelback, whoever's doing that, is going to be giving attention to Bijan. Like this should be the focus of our defense this week. Stop Bijan. That's huge. Drake London is pretty good, but Michael Penix still hasn't shown that he can hit him up big time. So, let's have Sanders still, give him a hard time, right? So, stop Bijan. For me, that really is the one big thing this week. It's the one thing that scares me, bothers me. It's the one thing that fuels the Falcons consistently. It's Bijan Robinson.
So let me ask you this then. Obviously, I agree. Um, do you load the box? Do you present an eight-man box pretty much exclusively until Penix or Cousins or whoever's out there can beat you?
Yeah, that's a good point. Eight man boxes worry me a little bit because Penix does have a strong enough arm and he has that gunslinger mentality. I kind of hate to just give him those open opportunities, right? So I think I'd like to go with that 5-man front. I mean the 5-man line,
Right,
and then leave Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu sitting back there for 7 in the box. I think I'm going to be happy with that, honestly.
right. I mean, I don't know if I trust our secondary enough yet. Sanders still, we haven't really talked about him much. He has not had a great season yet. It's
Right.
been pretty rough. Lattimore, we well documented at this point. I mean, Gino couldn't get off a pass last week, so he wasn't really affected that much. Still didn't have a great game, but didn't have a bad one either. Amos, man, he's arguably been outside of Kinlaw and Payne, maybe, and Dorrance Armstrong as well. Amos maybe be our best defender. Like he's a top three guy on this defense already. Um, I think that stacking the box and having Penix beat you, I think that's or just daring him. He does have the gunslinger mentality, but is he going to be accurate
Right.
enough? Is he going to find
Right.
his guy? I don't want to put too much into our secondary, but at the same time, it's like we got to challenge him at some point. Because, as you said, Bijan is the priority here, not Penix.
Yeah, even if Penix had looked good the past couple of weeks, right, which he didn't, but even if he looked good, Bijan would still be the key number 1 and 2 for me. So 8-man boxes still scare me. I kind of hate to do that, because you know it's not like 8 men can all play on top of the center, right? They're going to be spread out. So as quick as Bijan is, if he finds one crack, he's gone. So I'm kind of giving.
Right.
I really would like to just hinder him, slow him down in all aspects of his game. Nothing free or easy for him. Hopefully, no 60-yard touchdowns for Robinson. Let's just keep it all contained. Um, that really is kind of what I'm looking to do with Robinson.
All right. What you got next?
Number 2, stop the self-imposed mistakes, baby. Oh my gosh. I mean, goodness gracious. That we've seen back-to-back weeks of this. It cost us one game and it didn't cost us the other one. Can we please stop this? We're pros, okay? We want to be the next dynasty, right? We want to be the Patriots. We want to be the Chiefs. Those teams don't typically beat themselves. Very, very rarely do they beat themselves. You're going to have a bad week, sure, but you don't consistently beat yourself. You mentioned the drop passes. And, you can always have a debate about a specific pass, but in general, if you're having a lot of drops, man, guys just aren't bringing their focus. Let's bring the focus. I don't know what else to say, man. You're making millions of dollars a year to catch a ball, that a lot of us back home could catch. We may not be able to run anywhere with it, but we could catch it.
We
Give
can't get
us
open. We can't do anything once we have it, but we can
no.
certainly catch
We can
it.
catch it, exactly.
Hit us
We
on
can
a quick
catch those
screen and you'll
passes.
get a negative 4 yard gain, but we caught the damn thing.
And I will have four broken ribs. I'll never step on the field again. But I would have caught that freaking football. Okay. So let's
Uh,
catch our passes. Let's eliminate all as many of these penalties as we can, and let's have better communication in the secondary, even if that means going with simpler schemes in the secondary if you gotta. But let's clean this up, man. My gosh.
yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I'll also throw make all your kicks in there. I'll throw that in there as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So and no turnovers. Look, what? How about creating some turnovers? I don't know if that's a
Yes.
self-imposed mistake. We've had a couple dropped interceptions. We've had a couple of, I mean, can we start creating some turnovers maybe? I don't know if that's a self-imposed mistake, but you're not creating enough opportunities for yourself. So I'm gonna say that's a self-imposed mistake. Um, let's get in the plus column, which also means not turning the ball over, which is a self-imposed mistake. So, um, all right, what else?
Okay, so number three, it's the energy thing again. I've mentioned this at least twice this year, maybe the third time. I don't remember. Be aggressive, bring energy. I don't think the team's energy has been bad. I think their focus has been bad. I think the team's been bringing good energy. But what I really want to see this week, especially if Jaden Daniels is out, I want to see, them get aggressive on fourth downs here. I really do. I want to see the coaching staff. Why should the Falcons have all the fun? Why should they have all the desperation, all the energy, and all the wild stuff? Let's bring it too. Let's make sure we're just as hungry for the win, but let's make sure the coaching staff had a successful year last year going forward on fourth downs. Why stop? Why do we need to be conservative here? I don't see any reason why we need to go into this game being all conservative and tight. Let's cut it loose. Let's rip it. Let's go for some fourth downs. They're not all going to cash in, but I really want to see us match energy to what I expect. And you alluded to a desperate Falcons team here.
So I wouldn't be totally upset if Jaden didn't play for the storyline of Mariota going back to Atlanta, where things did not end very well.
Right,
Um,
right.
so I don't know how Atlanta probably he's not going to get a warm welcome. I can't imagine, but
Yeah.
I would love for a revenge game from Marcus Mariota. I would love to see him have 3 or 4 touchdowns and just like truck one of their defenders. Like, man, I would love to see that happen. Probably won't happen, but because hopefully Jaden's healthy enough to just play. But man, I'd love to see that. I'd love a good revenge story, especially when it's one of our players getting the revenge. So I would I would welcome that. But um your final predictions for week 4.
I definitely have a Commanders win. I debated on how aggressive to be here. Hey, I've got the Commanders winning here. I think I'm going to assign them 25 points, and we'll give the Falcons 21 points here. Not the 21. Let's go with 20. Let's say it's a couple of touchdowns, a couple of field goals, right? So I've got the Commanders 25-20 here over the Falcons. I do feel like the Falcons 30-0. That's a joke, right? That's just you didn't show up when the other team did. So that we're not going to see that this week. But I expect the Falcons to be able to do some things, and I expect the Commanders to still pull this win out. I feel like the Commanders, even with Mariota, are the slightly better team, and with Jaden Daniels, I think they're a significantly better team. Not dominant, but they got the better margin there, I think. So give me the Commanders at 25 and the Falcons at 20.
So I'm actually going for a bit of a closer game. I don't think it's gonna be one of those ones that like you're on your edge of your seat, but it's one we're probably gonna sweat out a little bit. Um, just because even though Penix has been struggling, this offense has the ability to pour on some points.
Yes, it
And
does.
I don't know that even if you because we've seen him, he's capable of it. Even if you limit Bijan, you're not going to completely stop him, more likely than not. But even if you limit him, Penix still has the ability to distribute the football and get it to playmakers. And they still have Kyle Pitts seems to be playing, pretty well outside of last week, obviously, but he seems to be playing well. He's made some big catches early on in this season. You got Drake London, you got Bijan out of the backfield as a receiver. Um, so I'm gonna go with final score. I think we're gonna win the game, but I'm gonna go 30 to 27. I think it's gonna be pretty darn close. We're gonna have the lead. I don't think we're gonna ever lose the lead at any point, but it's gonna be a little too close for comfort.
I'll take it any way I can get it. I will say, we might see any one of four quarterbacks in this game, right? The Commanders
Yeah.
could or could not play Daniels. They could or could not play Mariota.
Yeah.
Penix may or may not get to play the whole game, depending on how he's playing, and Kirk Cousins may come trotting in there for, a little visit against one of his former places. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting mix there at quarterback. But the important thing is, this is the game, and I do feel like the Commanders are better. But the Falcons just have not played up to their stuff yet this year, and I do feel like they have it within them. Their edge rush hasn't kicked in at all. The young guys, which no surprise, they're young guys. That
Yeah.
that edge rush hasn't kicked in at all. So maybe they're hoping that kicks in. I'm sure, but still, give me the Commanders here.
Yep. Well, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. Um, I'm optimistic that they can win this. I don't think this game should be taken for granted. It's very easy that, if we end up beating ourselves again, beating up on ourselves, that we could let this one slip away. I mean, they have an average roster as we've talked about, but they're explosive in some
Right,
spots. And,
right.
they're a good enough team that if Penix gets right, they should be at least in the hunt for the playoffs. Um, and we can't really mess around too much. They're not the Raiders, they're not the Chiefs, they're not Green Bay, but they're they're a solid team. So we can't take them for granted here. Um, I'm optimistic though. So I got them winning 30 to 27. What was your final score? 25,
25 to 20. Yeah, a little bit
25 to
lower
20.
scoring there. Yeah.
All right. Anything else before we say goodbye to our lovely audience?
Final thought is just that if the Commanders end up being 3-1, I'm going to be real excited. Even if I
Yes.
don't, all things, even if it's a sloppy win, right? If you're 3-1, there are tough teams coming up on the schedule, but there are easy teams coming up on the schedule too. Dallas and New York already look like they might be done for the year, right? That doesn't make them not dangerous, but as far as the division goes, I mean, are there two teams other than the Saints maybe who's the Dolphins, right? Those four teams just look like they are toast early in the season. So we'll see about the
Yeah.
Jackson Dart thing.
Cincinnati
But
maybe.
yes, Cincinnati as well. So yeah, it looks good for Washington right now. Even if you come in at 2-2, you are still completely in that playoff mix. But if you're at 3-1 and you've showed yourself against teams that are inferior to you, why not think we can do a little bit better again this year? So you're in a good spot right now.
My the big test is going to be next week when we talk about next week against LA. That's going to be, and you might not be as high on the Chargers as I am, but I mean, heck, the Chargers might win the West. So, and if Herbert, and I told Simon this on the show that we did, if Herbert can start winning some games here, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be a massive threat to Kansas City, to Buffalo, to Baltimore. Um, there's no reason. So if we can beat that team, then we can beat pretty much anybody in the NFC. Outside of
I'm
Green Bay, because that
close.
already happened. But
Right. Yeah. I'm close to where you're on the Chargers. Matter of fact, I don't remember if you and I talked about this during the offseason or not, but I was going to pick them to win the West until Slater got injured, their left tackle.
yeah,
And then I handed it to the Chiefs, but I picked the Chiefs to lose in the divisional round in all of my preseason predictions. I just didn't think they had what it took this year to get back up there to even the AFC Championship game, really. So I was very close on where you are with the Chargers. It just feels like to me right now, from a talent standpoint, the Chargers are still behind the Ravens and the Bills. So that's why I don't have the Chargers quite up there in that group. But boy, I'm a big believer in the Chargers being a really good, tough football team this year. Maybe just not quite Super Bowl-esque, but that's not far off from where I've got the Commanders either, you know. I
Right.
don't quite have the Commanders at Super Bowl level. I just think we're a tough football team, you know. We haven't even played our best game yet, you know. We played three sloppy games really,
Yeah.
and still 2-1. So, you know, that's where I'm at.
Man, we got a week three recap. We got a week four preview and a week five, like a first
Yes.
blush type deal here. So heck, we're covering all the bases here. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel Pro Football Plus if you're, or sorry, not Pro Football Enterprise. Sorry, my apologies. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, set notifications. If you're listening to the audio form of this on Apple or Spotify or wherever you're listening, please leave us a review. We'd greatly appreciate it. Also follow us on there. And hope you guys have a great week four. We'll see you all next week. Talk about more about the Chargers and that week five matchup. So we'll see you all next time.